Hi there. My name is Juliana Hock, and I'm the owner of Easy ADHD Coaching. I help people who may or may not be diagnosed with ADHD, and I help you go from feeling uncertainty to feeling in control and productive. Welcome to Easy ADHD Coaching, and I'm so happy to be here. So today's topic is navigating change in the workplace. And one thing we know about individuals with ADHD, well, really any human being, biologically, that it is very hard to change, whether you're changing your environment at home or change in the workplace. And let me tell you, change really affects someone with ADHD, especially if it's something we are prepared for, and really if it's something we're not prepared for, like something that just randomly comes up and we have to deal with it in the moment. So that is also tying in the element of self-regulation with change. So just be mindful of that. Um, when you have a problem show up for you at work, to be mindful of how can I be in tuned with myself? The intuition element of, okay, first, I'm not feeling my usual self. My emotions are heightened. I have a problem. How can I fix it? So really being self-aware of, how can you address problems in the moment so that you aren't feeling the problem all day long. So before I even get into change in the workplace, I did think that was important to bring up, how to navigate emotions in real time at work. So that's a great time to learn how to get yourself to take a pause. I am very much a victim of, allowing a problem that may or may not be as big of a problem as I actually think it is, but my brain allows me to think the problem is the size of the state of Maryland, but really it's not. So how can we get ourselves to self-regulate in the moment to realize that I can handle the situation, and what do I need to do, whether it's communicate with a coworker or get this task done or finish something properly, like whatever that, or something happened with the coworker while communicating. So, how do you self-regulate in the moment? And something that's so powerful and not talked about enough is like seriously taking a really deep breath all the way to your belly button. So imagine you are a track star or you run marathons, and when you're running and you need to pull up the endurance up a hill, you're going to actually breathe all the way up through your nose, all the way to your belly button, and take a 4-second release. So that's something for you to get curious about that has really also helped me, is allowing my brain to receive oxygen. Something really interesting is that our brains take up 70 to 80% of just one breath of oxygen. So just being mindful that our brains greatly need oxygen and to not forget to take a breath. And we all know that with ADHDers, we resist change, and the more we handle doing change, the easier it gets for us. But, taking the first step to addressing change, what are the first steps I need to do, that task breakdown, that activation piece, but also envisioning ourselves in this change. So that's also something ADHDers struggle with, is that big picture thinking. So when we are navigating change in the workplace and your boss tells you without any type of notice, hey, we're implementing this new structure at work. These are your new responsibilities. These are your new chain of command. This is who now you communicate with. That's a lot at one time. And sometimes it's overwhelming to receive all this new information as to like, how am I going to organize it? How am I going to see this? So before I even dive into the topics I brought to this session for today, is for me, seeing change, if I have all these new set of rules or curriculum or task or due date, get yourself a whiteboard. Like, they sell really large whiteboards at Walmart. I have already 3 in my office right here, but essentially like put on the whiteboard so you can see visually those new tasks, due dates, assignments, who you have to communicate with. And I would even color coordinate who you have to communicate with, make that a color. This task for this department, make that a color, and like specific things you can't forget, put that in red. You cannot forget that. So anything super new, put it so you can see it. Because, with us ADHDers, if it's not visible to us, this isn't for all ADHDers, for many of them, many of us, we need to visually see or it doesn't exist. So that's one step to handle change, is to immediately put those new instructions on the wall so it's right there for you to see. Another thing is, I have also felt victim of this, but I've lived to be to the other side. So I'm just want to like, if I could tell myself something when I was working at my corporate job, and like we were going through the pandemic and there was consistent change and I had a higher up role, and you can't resist change. The more you resist change, the harder your life is, not only at work, but also completing your work, leaving work at work, and like not taking work home with you. So it also comes back down to you of like almost what closure do you need to like digest and take on this change. So that's something that you'd have to get curious about, but also very much so acknowledging when you are resisting change, and what does that look like for you? And a lot of the times for me, when I acknowledge change is happening, that for me is the first step, because change is so scary for me, that when I can acknowledge, okay, this is the change that is happening and this is the first step I need to take. So for me, if I can have a clear vision in my head of the steps I need to take, or if I can have a vision of the end result, sometimes with work, tasks and assignments and projects and goals, they are 3-month, completion date. So we might not know what the end result is, but what we can do is a task breakdown of, these are the things I have to get due by this time. So in that situation, that's another great way to have a whiteboard, have your task and due dates on the whiteboard. Or what I like to do is a monthly view calendar. So as I'm completing assignments, I then schedule the next follow-up date in my calendar. And another thing I do is I have all projected due dates in my calendar so that I am not like missing anything. And also I can like stay on track for when I do my weekly plan on, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday for the next week. I know right away, like this is definitely coming up, and I already did something for my future self by writing down, I can't forget to do this. So that's just something to throw out there. To how can you make due dates, new assignments, new responsibilities visible to you that you don't forget to complete them? Because, at the end of the day, change is inevitable. So, another thing is, if your, corporation or the business who you work for, like got either new tech accommodations, or you have a new role responsibility, or like the entire infrastructure of the work community or work enhancement got reconstructed, just to be mindful of what are like the hierarchy with you that you can ask for help. So always know like, who can I communicate with, so that if I need support, I have this open, transparent dialogue, that I don't feel like I can't communicate with them. So what that means is finding your trust and safety to who you can communicate with on to answer your questions, to clarify things. So a lot of the times, and I also fell victim to this, was I would like, okay, I no longer do this, but I'm just trying to give an example that could help people who are listening to this video. But like, have been times in the past when I was in my corporate role, and like, you're having a healthcare meeting and they're spitfiring, all these instructions for you to complete. And if you don't have, a notebook, it's like taking down all of these notes of what you need to get done, you're not going to know what has to get done. So in that situation, when you're getting direction and order that are being spitfired to you, like in an open dialogue verbally, like that's a great time to use your electronic accommodations. And what that looks like, it could be, okay, it was recorders back in the day where you could record, a transcript, but now like you can use Otter, REI, whereas like no one has to know you're recording the meeting, but essentially recording the meeting gives you the transcript so you don't lose the tasks that were assigned to you. So I'm not saying you need to do this extra step of having a recorder. This is just for someone who is missing instructions and is like not getting their daily tasks or their work tasks completed and following through on due dates because they don't even know what is due. They don't even know what assignment is due because so much was coming to them at that one time. So what I'm saying is if you are resisting, getting help on the instruction piece of understanding your assignments, like you need to understand who can you talk to that can help clarify these instructions and clarify due dates. So I understand this is the most vulnerable thing you're going to go through as a work employee, especially as an adult, high functioning ADHD adult. It is vulnerable to ask for clarifying instructions, but I'm telling you, it is better to have the trust and safety with your employer to tell them, I need just to clarify these instructions and I need can I ask you these questions in a week from now to make sure I'm doing okay. I'm not sure what that looks like for you, but have a way that you are able to clarify instructions and to make sure you have all of your work task assignments visible for you so what is expected of you. Because if we don't know what is expected of us, how do we know what to perform, what output with our performance, what to do at work, So making sure you're staying on top of new task assignments and their due dates. So figuring out how to make due dates visible for you, whether I know a lot of people that are very hip and are very, very well versed with Google Calendar. I am not that person. But I like putting my, calendar items in Google Calendar. But to me, it is so overwhelming to see all that in my Google Calendar. But I have my appointment time. So when I wake up in the morning and the day before, I know what's coming ahead. So just understanding how do you feel, how can we get you to see your due dates and tasks when they're due? So whether you are a computer person or pen and paper kind of person, figuring out what that looks like for you. Something in the most perfect world would be, having, additional training for team members. So this is something just to be mindful of, does your corporation or business offer these additional trainings? A lot of times, businesses offer FHA or FSA. They offer coaching benefits, and I didn't even know that existed. So if you are someone who is looking for coaching but might not be able to afford it, a lot of employers actually offer coaching benefits, but you have to go through the process of finding the coach that you want to hire that you think would help you with productivity and organization. And then you submit that to your employer, and then they'll say, okay, they go through it to then you start a sponsor agreement, and then we kick it off from there. But essentially, it's the employee's job to find the coach, and then to then get coached. And then when you start getting coached by a coach, you pay the coach and then you submit your bill to your employer. So just wanted to do a little quick, that's if you want to get subsidized or, reimbursed by your employer who does offer FSA or FHA benefits for coaching. That's how the process goes. So that being said, and this is something kind of tacky, but is actually so useful, is if you have a new software new software that you think but haven't mastered, I guarantee if you were to just Google that software product, there's someone out there that came up with a guide of how to use that software. So I can tell you for my personal self, I resisted getting tutorials on even OneDrive, because Microsoft OneDrive changed since I was in college. And I'm serious. I graduated college in 2016. How is it that different in 2024? I don't know. But so basically don't that's another thing, resist to change. So instead of feeling so lost and not how to use something, how can we like bridge that gap? How can we help you overcome that barrier so things are easier for you? Sometimes even if you Google the what your the product, the technology product, sometimes Google will even have picture display of how to like which buttons to click. So I just want to say like don't be afraid to research, tutorials of how to use a tech device because tech devices are really challenging to navigate. And I'm someone who is tech savvy. So, um, okay, so, that moving forward is like having open communication. So, there is a lot to be said here. I'm not saying you need to tell your boss like the wrong information. I'm just saying that if you have open communication about whether you have a concern or feedback, be a responsible and respectable adult. If you are responsible and respecting your employer, and when you come to them with a communication concern or feedback, it's going to go a lot easier if you show up with respect and dignity because they'll be much more responsive to you. So just take an extra moment to think about what on earth am I saying and do I have an argument? Because if it, like the question you're trying to get answered, like you could go to a team member about or you could just send an email. What I'm trying to say is you don't want to make a big deal over something that's not a big deal because you're just going to hurt yourself in the end. So just taking that moment to think about like how can I foster like a transparent team environment and what does that look like for your team? And if it's not very transparent, all workplace environments are very different. So if you don't have like a team of people, is there one person that you can trust to ask these questions? And really like before, like just taking, with us ADHDers, it's really quick to be impulsive to ask questions that we think we don't know the answers to. But so many times when I was working in corporate, there was an email sent about whatever that thing was. So sometimes the answers are right in front of us. It's just we have to be able to self-regulate in the moment. And self-regulation is a part of just allowing ourselves to like deal with the situation as it's happening in real time. So being able to take a deep breath and like ask myself, like, because if your or employer or workplace environment is not so friendly, you're not gonna just be able to get these answers answered so quickly. So really like ask yourself what resources are available to me. What do I already know that I'm too inattentive to realize that I already have these answers. And it's okay to admit that. I'm telling you, the sooner you can admit that you're having a hard time or like you don't know what the next step is, the sooner we can like make this correction and move forward with getting our work done. So, just being mindful of where are these instructions and am I checking, like that being said, am I checking my emails daily? Like that's so big. For another thing is with us, like a lot of people that I coach with workplace professionals, I coach them around inbox zero, checking your inbox. What does it take for you to have an empty inbox that you received, that you responded and you opened everything? So that's something for you to get curious about. So another like I just want to point out with navigating change in the workplace is making executive decisions, like so inclusive decision making is what I'm titling this topic. But basically, when change happens, we have to make we have to take responsibility for ourselves and we have to understand and navigate that change that makes sense for us. So and what that means to me is that we have to make a decision of, do I want to, accept this change that is given to me for my jobs to succeed at my job? Or do I want to keep resisting and, potentially cost me my job? So making that decision of how you are going to navigate these new systems. How am I going to navigate implementing these new way of thinking, this new way of change into my day-to-day work life, in my work life environment that I'm going to stick and live with? So that comes back down to you of making decisions and being concise and confident with it and just rolling with that. So like that's something I'd like for you to get curious on. Just an invitation for you to get curious on is, you know, what am I, with this change that is arising that I am not making a decision on, I'm going to make this decision right here and right now, and this is how I'm going to execute it moving forward. So with that, what I then would insert right here is, you know, how to break down a task working backwards, or how to get started on doing that new change. What does that look like for you? So some people work a lot better with, okay, this is the steps I have to take to get to the end result. Or if you don't know the end result, like what can I do right now to help me take one step to that bigger goal? So like I understand like making decisions are a lot at one time. So what about like this thing needs a decision, or what about this thing needs these other decisions made? So that's up for you to decide, but being confident, concrete, and moving forward, and just being a boss of yourself, because I know you can do it. And a lot of the times, us ADHDers is just taking that responsibility of I'm gonna do this, and this is how this is my way of processing, and this is how it's gonna go. But I'm gonna get it done. It's gonna be a great product in the end. Next topic is change champions. So, you know, we're like what, like, you know, with family coaching and coaching children is there's the terminology that Caroline McGuire always says is it takes a village, which means it is not just one professional working with that child to get this child to be to their life fulfillment, to feeling like they can function the way they like and feel good about themselves. It's no different than an adult employee, high functioning ADHD adult navigating change in the workplace. We need to be able to ask for help when we need it. And what that could also look like is finding a change champion that is in your workplace environment that you can connect with. A lot of us ADHDers feel a lot better when we feel connected to people or something. So that could also be really helpful for you, is to find someone in your workplace that's in a similar department that is navigating change like a rock star, and you can go to them for instant help or instant gratification of that you're doing something correct. And like that's so helpful to have that motivation element when you're in the workplace. So what does that look like for you? Connection, or, you know, getting your, you know, what ignites your brain first thing when you get to work, and, you know, understanding your work environment to help you feel connected to the workplace is so important. But again, everybody is different. I'm just coming from an ADHD professional of what can work for us ADHDers. And, you know, last but not least is, you know, empathy and support, of just acknowledging that the emotional impact of change that is occurring right now, and, you know, that you may need support, but how can I work with my brain to support myself, to not only give myself a hug for self-empowerment thinking, but also how can I support myself to get this work done? So that was two things at one time. So what I want to say is, how can you support yourself during the workday when negative thoughts arise? So like getting curious about things you are good at and things that naturally come easy to you. And when work gets hard, to remind yourself of those self-empowering thoughts. Um, like I I don't know. I was going to give a few examples, but I don't feel like talking about negative thoughts right now. So like then I don't want my head to get into negative thoughts. So then the next thing is supporting your brain in the way your brain processes. So what that means is, how do you best work? Are you someone who's tactile and needs to write your notes with paper? I mean, I'm talking thick paper, not just a paper and a pad. You need thick lined paper. Or are you somebody who literally needs to type everything and then print it? Or are you somebody who needs to do everything on their iPad? Just understanding how do you work best so that you can get your work done, but also feel good about yourself. So that concludes today's talk. If you are interested in learning more about ADHD coaching or how I can help you in the workplace, please feel free to visit my website at easyadhdcoaching.com and you can schedule a complimentary discovery call there. Thanks so much, you guys, and until next time, bye-bye.